Ladies and gentlemen, the Durham probe is finding out the answers to many questions, but one question is the following. Why did Michael Sussman allegedly lie to the Bureau, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, pertaining to who paid him? Why did he not say, listen, I was hired by the Clinton campaign? What's so difficult about that? Well, obviously, that would mean that the information he gave to government agencies was either tainted or given for a political purpose, not because he was a good citizen, which is what the indictment talks about. The indictment says, well, the people, James Baker, the legal counsel at the Bureau, believed that he was only giving information on Alpha Bank because he was a good citizen and wanted to he wanted to help with national security issues. That's, of course, not the case. He was hired for a specific purpose. Now, when the indictment hit, the third indictment of the Durham probe special counsel, the first one was Kevin Kleinsmith, who lied to a FISA judge, had to lie to FISA judges and fabricate evidence to continue investigations. Then there's Igor Danchenko, one of the steel subsources, or the steel subsource pertaining to steel subsource that basically made numerous false statements pertaining to the Steele dossier. Then there's Michael Sussman, who then lied to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the top legal counsel there, James Baker, and said he was not being paid by Trump's direct political rival. He was just acting, for some altruistic reasons. He was giving information on Alpha Bank and Trump and all the data they compiled from a healthcare provider, from Trump's Central Park apartment, from Trump Tower, from the executive office of the president. He was giving all of this information only because he wanted to benefit national security. Okay. The question, though, that Durham is trying to answer, because media now, if you look at a couple articles out there, they've said, well, Clinton paying, or the Clinton campaign paying Sussman has nothing to do with her or the Democratic Party wanting to spy on Trump. This, of course, is the most absurd rebuttal. Of course, people were hired for a specific purpose, to set up and frame Trump. The Clinton campaign and the DNC didn't buy the Steele dossier to set up and frame President Obama or Biden. They engage in these activities because they wanted to set up, frame, and paint Trump as installed by the Kremlin. This way they could explain how they lost, or why they lost. And this way they could undermine Trump, and probably for some other reasons as well. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'll be back in about a couple of hours talking about another element of the Durham probe most people aren't addressing. So definitely be back in a couple of hours. But this is very important because I was reading an article in The Hill, and this article in The Hill talks about Joe Scarborough saying, that's not what the Clinton campaign did. He was trying to say that the Clinton campaign hiring Sussman had nothing to do with surveillance of Trump. And the reality is that they don't want to put two and two together. They just, this is a Mediaite, Joe Scarborough, Fox News is willfully stupid or deliberately lying about claim Hillary spied on Trump. And then you get this interesting, it's a 27-page NBC News reporter It's a 27-page indictment covering one specific count. Yes, the count of the lie to James Baker, the lie pertaining to Sussman getting paid by Clinton. He did not state, allegedly, he did not state that he was paid by Clinton. Why? Well, obviously, because he was paid by Trump's direct political rival. I think when you look at the totality of this, time will tell whether or not payments were made and what those payments were made for. No, those payments were made to spy on Trump, to obtain information and set up Trump, okay? It's not rocket science. If payments were made to Rudy Giuliani pertaining to anything to do with Biden, oh my God, they would put two and two together, or Clinton. And whether or not it had to do with research into Alpha Bank, which is something that most news organizations didn't even touch. No, the National Security Advisor even tweeted, was on programs. Clinton tweeted about it. So yeah, it's one of the many things, one of the many absurd claims they made. Then, you know why? Because it's so confounding, so hard to follow, Scarborough replied. No, it's not. It's very easy to follow. Clinton paid an attorney to obtain information, to exploit data on Trump, and get information and data and cybersecurity information from a healthcare provider, from his apartment, from the executive office of the president even, and Trump Tower. This pleading, which is indecipherable unless you have an agenda? What? Indecipherable? What are you talking about? The man is accused of lying. This is Joe Scarborough. The man is accused of lying to the FBI about Clinton paying him to obtain data on Trump. What's so difficult to follow, Mr. Scarborough? Obviously, the attorney is getting paid to undermine Trump. It's not to help Trump, so let's just cross that out. It's definitely not to help Donald Trump. Maybe the people at MSNBC think that it's to help Donald Trump. No, we can cross that out. Which they did legally. Them obtaining information legally about Trump and then using it to deceive media is completely irrelevant. It was used to undermine Trump politically. This is confusing as the initial story. No, it's not. It's not confusing at all. I remember when the initial story came out and I read it through and I was like, what? Everybody did. No, the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, was on promoting this nonsense, the future National Security Advisor. That's why nobody paid attention to it the first time. No, it was part of the Steele dossier myth. Okay, so it wasn't as important as the dossier in terms of setting up and framing Trump, but it still was part of the lies and nonsense. The Steele dossier indictment is the Igor Danchenko indictment, but they're not talking about that. And John Hellerman then pivoted to Fox News' endless coverage. One of the things about this is there's willful or either incredibly stupid or willful misconstruing. No, there's nothing to misconstrue here. Trump's direct political rival was paid to obtain information on him and then utilize that information to weave a narrative to A, get government officials to investigate Trump, which is within the indictment, it states that, and B, to deceive or dupe or get impressionable media coverage or get journalists who want to undermine Trump to cover this story and fill the airwaves and convince millions upon millions of morally superior liberal Democrats that Trump had a back channel with a bank you-know-where. It's not that difficult. Okay, even mashed potato brains Biden can understand this. So, but see again, what Durham is eventually going to get to is why Clinton. Durham already knows why Clinton paid these people. It was to set up and frame Trump. It wasn't to set up and frame President Obama or President Mashed Potato Brains Biden. It was to set up and frame Trump. It's not that difficult. They impeached Trump on an ellipsis. Even President Zelensky stated that Trump never pressured him. They still impeached Trump. Okay, and there was no direct evidence he ever withheld assistance to then get another country to investigate Biden. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe, Ryan. I'll be here in about I would say 2 hours or so. Thanks, everybody.